And I just couldn't believe it, and I knew from the first event that I would quit.
Yeah.
I would quit my job, and this would be what I would do. We're in the business of emotions. We're in the business of feelings. You need to decide to succeed before you can succeed.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm thrilled to be hosting the second of 2 live episodes of the Afikra Matbakh podcast in collaboration with What the Food at Arsalkal. In both of these episodes, and today's the second one, we're exploring the evolving culinary scene in the Arab world with 2 amazing industry thought leaders in the UAE. Yesterday we had Lean Al-Zeben, and today we have Ziyad Ayass. We're going to learn how the Arab culinary scene is being redefined through community building, culinary storytelling, and entrepreneurship in the region. Follow the Matbakh podcast everywhere podcasts are found: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow Afikra on Instagram while you're at it. My name is Vanessa Zabi, and I'll be your guest host today. I'm a former founder and entrepreneur in the food and health space, and currently I work in crypto, and I've been an Afikra nerd and member back since 2015, honestly. So today, we're in for a treat. Many treats. Today we're going to learn more about the story of Ka'ak Al Manara and how Ziyad really thinks about balancing innovation and nostalgia in the food and beverage world. Just a quick bio before we kick off. Ziyad is the founder and managing partner of Wonder Restaurants Holding, which owns and operates Ka'ak Al Manara, a casual Lebanese restaurant and bakery brand in Dubai, along with Manaret Beirut, an upscale Lebanese restaurant brand launching soon. He began his career in PricewaterhouseCoopers in Dubai, spent 8 years consulting on major real estate and hospitality transactions in the Middle East. After earning his Chartered Financial Analyst, the CFA certificate, Ziyad left the corporate world behind, and he was on a mission to deliver nostalgic wonder of Beirut through the development of F&B concepts. Since bursting onto the scene as one of Dubai's hottest pop-up concepts, Ka'ak Al Manara has come really a long way. By the end of 2024, they will operate 3 outlets and employ over 220 employees. Ziyad, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. Just to kick off, what inspired all of this? How did you get started in the food space? And particularly, how and why did you focus on Lebanese cuisine?
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me, Vanessa. It's a pleasure to be here. And you mentioned something before I answer your question. You mentioned, Afikra has come such a long way. And for me, it's all kind of full circle today because I remember we had just opened our first outlet for Ka'ak Al Manara in Dubai Media City, and Afikra had just launched their chapter in Dubai, and we were, I think, the second venue to host a Afikra back in 2019. So it's really incredible to see how both the Afikra organization and I'm blessed to have an organization at the same time, how they developed and grew and where we've reached today. So it's really a pleasure to be here. So to answer your question, how did I get into food? You mentioned I was at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, for 8 years. I was a financial consultant. And one day, well, not one day, I would say, through the course of some time, I came to the realization that I don't think I was ever going to be really content in the corporate world for the long term. And that realization was really brought home when at one day I remember looking at my boss or my boss's boss and thinking, like, this guy does a lot of what I'm doing, it's just clocking into the office day in and day out. We might be on different projects, he might be at maybe a strategically higher level, but it looks the same. You wear a suit, you go to the office, you open your computer, you type away, you travel for meetings, and it's just kind of like a roulette. And I said to myself, this is not what I want. Although I'm so thankful for everything that I learned as a hospitality and development consultant, as well as some M&A at the time. I think it all came down to a decision, and what I like to call is a decision with conviction, or a real decision. And when someone makes a real decision, the whole world, the whole universe changes for you, and that's when you know you've made a true decision. And so my original decision was not F&B, it was just, I want to change my life. I want to be I want to own my own destiny, be the master of my own destiny. And so I started working on a lot of ideas while, I'd close my laptop at 7 p.m. and I was working on ideas. I was building an app at some point. And eventually, in the middle of the night I was on a hungry belly, go to my kitchen at 3 in the morning, open my fridge. I was a bachelor at the time, and there was nothing in the fridge except, I don't know if you know this, rusk bread. Mm-hmm. So I had rusk bread and I had spread cheese. And it's 2 in the morning, I was like, this is all I have. And I'm spreading the cheese on the rusk bread and I'm crunching at it, and I was like, oh man, you know what I really miss? I miss Lebanese kaak. And for anybody that comes from Lebanon will know that kaak is like a national emblem for us. It's something we all enjoy. It's something we all celebrate. Despite all of our differences, I think kaak is one thing that we can definitely agree on as something we all enjoy. And it hit me like a ton of bricks is, why is there no kaak outside of Lebanon? I mean, the manouche has gone global. Everybody knows what a manouche is, but very few people know what a kaak is. And as far as I was concerned, kaak is more unique, more interesting. It has a special story. It looks so weird. And so right there and then, I became a man possessed, and I spent the whole night ruminating and imagining how this can come to life. And I dropped the app idea and focused on this.
That's so interesting, especially the focus on kaak specifically. So tell us a little bit about that transition, right? Like you have this idea. How did you take it? How did you make that transition from the corporate world and actually become a food entrepreneur? Did it happen overnight, or was it gradual? Like, talk to us about how you started.
Yeah, so you mentioned that I had done the Chartered Financial Analyst program. So I had just finished 3 levels of CFA, and it was just gut-wrenching, absolute carnage in terms of how much time, how much effort, and I learned a lot from that. I gained a lot. But the one thing I tell people, that the most valuable thing I learned from that experience, which is almost 2.5 years of 5-month sprints of just studying before each exam. There's 3 levels of exams. What I learned is that, wow, I can accomplish a lot with my free time outside of the corporate requirements. And PwC is no, run in the park. It's challenging, but I started creating boundaries for myself and to study for this exam. Close the computer at 6, study for 2-3 hours almost every day for 4 months. And so when I achieved the CFA, it was easily maybe 2 months later where I decided to drop everything in finance and change course. And so what it taught me is, okay, how much can you accomplish in your free time after work hours? And if I could accomplish the CFA, what else can I do? And so that's where the idea of building a business and then the whole story of kaak came to me. So for the first 2 years, I stayed working as a corporate, and I was building Ka'ak Al Manara on the side. And you mentioned we popped up onto the scene as one of the hippest pop-ups in 2016. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many people in the crowd today were there in 2016, but there was a very popular farmers market called the Ripe Market, where it was such a unique space. There was so much positive energy and so much just wonder happening in that space. And before the idea of kaak had came to me, I had visited this market and completely unaware, I was visiting, and I was so inspired by just how busy it was, the unique concepts that were there. And I remember there was a Manaish concept that was, for me, very basic, and it was doing really well. And so when I had the revelation about Ka'ak in the middle of the night, I sat in bed ruminating all night long, and all of my best ideas have happened on sleepless nights. And it's like not intentional, it's almost like something, I don't know if you want to call it divine, just happens. You start ruminating, you get these ideas, and you know there's a life-changing idea when it keeps you up all night and you can't stop thinking about it, and the more you think about it, the more you can envision it, the more clear it becomes. And so I started for 2 years as just a pop-up.
And what was that experience like with the pop-up? I mean, talk me through what those Saturday mornings were like and how it started to grow.
At those days, the Dubai week was Sundays to Thursdays. And so Thursday, I'd finish work. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a trade license. I didn't have staff. I was lucky enough to have a friend who had a restaurant who let me kind of piggyback off of his trade license and use a bit of his kitchen. But it was kind of, I'm going to do everything, don't worry, just if I need support from the kitchen from time to time. So I used to leave work at 6 p.m. and spend 3 hours in the co-op, in the supermarket, buying all of my goods from the supermarket at retail price. And the first event, we sold maybe 100 kaaks. The second event, 300. And we kept selling out. The third event, we sold 600. The fourth event, 900. And so the kaak I was producing, I outsourced it to a pretty basic bakery, so I had to teach him how to make the kaak, and it was not the best kaak in the world. It was just me. I went to Lebanon for a few weeks, learned it, came and tried to teach him how to do it, and it did the job. But can you imagine buying stock for 900 kaaks in the supermarket? It was a bit of a zoo. So I'd get part-timers to help me push trolleys, and I'd call the guy on the cheese station, the olive and cheese guy. I'd call him the night before. I was like, Ahmed, Habibi, tomorrow I need 25 kilos of Akawi cheese, 15 kilos of Lebne, 16 kilos of halloumi, 3 kilos sliced turkey. And I'd tip him 200 dirhams each week, and he'd spend 3 hours just churning and just grinding the cheese. And so we'd leave the supermarket with four trolleys of packages of cheese, and the looks that people would give us on the checkout, they're like, what is going on? So in the actual events, it was one of the most valuable operational experiences I've had in my career. So we were in a 3x3 stall, and as I mentioned, each event we'd sell out, and it would double and triple or quadruple the quantities we were selling. And what that looked like is the first event, I had 3 part-timers, and I'd pray to God the night before, please let them show up, please let them show up. The next day, they'd show up, or one would be missing. The next event, I needed 5 part-timers. The next event, I needed 9 part-timers. The next event, my brother, my mother, everybody,
This was all in a very small space.
3x3, like literally half the size of this stage. And so that was actually it was like being put through the fire of restaurant operations.
Yeah.
And it was so valuable because, today looking back, that was 6-7 years ago. We have 3 restaurants. We're opening a 3rd restaurant. I'm dealing with very experienced professionals, executive chefs, operational managers with 15 years of experience. That was kind of like my learn by rapid initiation experience. And so somehow I had a good enough understanding of operating under pressure, under high intensity pressure situations, and it was so valuable. But that was one of the most incredible kind of phases of our journey, and it's really played a big part in the connection we've had with our community, building Ka'ak Al Manara. A lot of the people who are our still passionate supporters are people who used to queue we used to have queues that would be 20, 30 minutes long, and I would just be sitting there and saying, what is this blessing? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was, last night I was at the office, working really hard, and today I'm at a stall with a queue of 30 people who want to discover what this unique sesame bread is all about. And I just couldn't believe it. And I knew from the first event that I would quit.
Yeah.
I would quit my job, and this would be what I would do.
And what was the tipping point from the pop-up to retail, and what kind of led you to kind of take that transition then with the company?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, from the first event, seeing the sellout, I had been convinced. I was like, what have I been doing my whole life? I'm going to quit. I know I want to get into F&B, but it was not all easy after that. So that was just kind of the rose-colored glasses days. The ripe market was a very unique situation where there was no competition, there was no La Mer, there was no City Walk 2, there was no the beach. So everyone who had a family wanted to be outdoors there, and that lasted for 2 years, and then it kind of fizzled out. So for me, I knew that I wanted to do this, the vision was always, it was never a small stand selling just kaak. At the time, Za'atar Zayt was really a model we looked up to, and we still do in a lot of ways, but we've diverged quite significantly from that model. So it was always in my mind to build a fast casual Lebanese eatery with the main product being celebrated as the kaak. And so that's what we did with the opening of our first outlet, which was our Media City outlet, which is Ka'ak Al Manara Media City. And if you visit that outlet, you'll realize that the decor, the experience, it's a very fast, casual experience where it's designed for office customers or office guests to eat on the go. And so that was always the vision. And how I went from a pop-up concept to that is through the pop-ups, I was able to save some money. I had some money saved up, but I'm a corporate finance guy, and I had been raising money for businesses for 8 years and several F&B businesses, hospitality business. I knew how to raise money. So I put together a holding company and a group of really amazing partners that I'm blessed to have, that have, for the most part, been with me since day one. And together we opened the first outlet, because the restaurant business is not, it's a very high capex or very financially intensive business, and it takes a lot of funds to get started. And so we opened in 2019. So I spent 2 years with the pop-ups, and then we opened in Media City, our first outlet in 2019, right on the cusp of COVID, but that's maybe for another time.
Yeah. And when you were developing the retail concept, how did you balance innovation, I guess, in food that you were developing with also that nostalgia feeling that so many of the customers gravitated to?
So I love this question because essentially, we're in the business of it's not a food business. I always tell my team and my partners, we're in the business of emotions, we're in the business of feelings. And that's why we've named the holding company Wonder Restaurants Holding. And essentially what I wake up to do every day, and the mission that our steward, from the steward to the driver all the way up to my executive chef, the first 2 pages of our handbook shares the vision and the mission. And I used to think that stuff was, all fluffy stuff, this vision, mission stuff, but I learned, because I had to as an entrepreneur, that actually those are the most important building blocks of everything that's to come. And so for us at the holding company level is we want to deliver F&B concepts that ultimately deliver wonder. And we know we've done that when you're in the restaurant or you're online and you see or you hear the ooh and the ah, and did you see this? And oh, look at that. Or oh, did you taste this? So we're in the business of spreading wonder. And in the case of Ka'ak Al Manara, it's defined, what we've defined it internally as a team is, for Ka'ak Al Manara, that brand, it's delivering nostalgic wonder. And nostalgic wonder is, we've defined it in the group as a feeling of youthful enthusiasm that you feel when remembering your youth. And even more defined, we say it's the feeling that a child has when walking into a Lebanese bakery for the first time. And if we could get more people to look at the world with the same wonder a child looks at the world when he walks into a Lebanese bakery for the first time holding his dad's hand, if more people in the world could see the wonder in the world, you know, we've at least created something meaningful. So when I discovered that, you know, for a long time my quoted vision or mission was to become the world's #1 choice for kaak, or to take kaak global. That's a great vision, and I'll know I'll have accomplished that in X number of years when our kaak maybe reaches Los Angeles or something like that. But what gave me a lot more meaning and a lot more flexibility to develop our concept, and you'll see that Ka'ak Al Manara evolved a lot from the early days, is realizing that actually our mission is to deliver nostalgic wonder. And so when that becomes your focus, rather than being so product focused, kaak across the world, and becoming more about moments and feelings, that's when I said, okay, wow, actually I can introduce my mom's tabakh, my mom's food. Actually I can introduce, you know, moune. Actually I can introduce fatayr. For a long time I was on the fence of whether we should introduce menaish. And so we did. And ultimately it all started making sense when we looked at the business through kind of that wonder factor and that nostalgia. And so the innovation followed that. Yeah. Everything we started building started going through that filter. Does it deliver wonder? That's our mission. And so that's how we make decisions now.
And I mean, you touched on this earlier, but how did community, I mean, you guys built a massive following over time, particularly through the pop-up, actually, and that played into the retail as well. How did community impact the growth of your brand? And talk to me a little bit about how, you know, you grew that strong base. I mean, people really are passionate followers of Ka'ak Al Manara.
Yeah, until this day, it means the world to see people you don't know, or people send you screenshots of group chats they're having, and someone that, you know, they don't know has a connection to Ka'ak Al Manara saying something like, oh, you should visit Ka'ak Al Manara, it's amazing vibes, it reminds me of home, or so this is everything to us, yeah, it's been just focusing on I guess, yeah, the community has just been amazing, and we're blessed to have this community that's so passionate. And I think there's a lot of factors that play into that. I think, first of all, the USP, which is kaak, a lot of people are passionate about kaak. And the number of people that came to me when we started Ka'ak Al Manara, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I always thought of starting a kaak brand, and you beat me to it. I was like, yeah, you know, that's the number of people, Lebanese people that said that. There's so many. So kaak helped a lot. But I think on the other side is just the way we think about marketing. It's really about connections. It's really about just being thoughtful. And like, that's another thing we have, that's on the 3rd page of our handbook is, you know, when in doubt, be thoughtful.
Yeah.
So if someone asks for, you know, some more olive oil or some, you know, can I have some extra halloumi on this? Don't, just be thoughtful, be generous. And so we've always had this motto, you know, my parents raised me to always be generous. Yeah. My name is Ziyad. It means kind of somehow generosity or more.
Also the spirit of Lebanon, of Lebanon.
Yes, so we rarely pay for any community-driven advertising or anything, and other than the people who love the brand, the online community of you know, influential people, influencers, I've been so blessed that I've personally made contact with over 200 of Dubai's influencers from all segments, the micro to the macro, and somehow we've been able to win their hearts and get into they've been nice enough to welcome us into their homes with deliveries, with caterings. And so the best form of marketing for me is just sharing the love of our food, sharing the love of our craft with as many people as possible, and hoping, we never ask. We just tell people, we really want you to experience this. And we send them anytime we have a new menu drop or a new catering offering. We send them, we message, 20, 30. 10 of them respond with, I'm free. Yeah. We send them things, or we invite them, and they by themselves take it upon themselves just to share their love for what we're creating. And the last thing I would say is, it's really just all attention to detail. Yeah. Like every nook and cranny of our outlets, there's thought and thoughtfulness behind, what each space is supposed to evoke in terms of emotion.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about your new concept, Manaret Beirut, and what we can expect.
Right. So back to Wonder Restaurants holding at the holding level. I mean, essentially our focus there is developing brands, restaurant brands that celebrate Lebanese food culture and deliver wonder, of course. So I think I've become a bit obsessed with all the richness of Lebanese food culture. And the reason I say Lebanese food culture and not Lebanese cuisine is because there's a difference. So Ka'ak Al Manara at its heart is a bakery and restaurant brand. So it celebrates the bakery side of the Lebanese food scene. But also in Lebanon, you have the snack scene. So the sandwiches and the Philadelphia and the chicken fajita and the shawarma. You have the fish restaurant concepts. And then you have kind of the more full, traditional, full-scale Lebanese dining concepts. And that's where we're heading with Manaret Beirut. Manaret Beirut is a full-fledged, extensive Lebanese dining experience serving the top kind of quality Lebanese cuisine. By default, that means it will have an ergile and shisha kind of offering. But what we've made sure to do is really make sure we protect and create the non-smoking space to be very kids-friendly, family-friendly. So we're opening in Motor City in next month. It's a large space. It's around 14,000 square foot. By comparison, our Wasl branch is only 7,000. Okay. It has a non-smoking and a smoking section. But in the non-smoking section, what you'll find is the bakery by Ka'ak Al Manara. So you can still visit with your kids, with your friends, and have the full Ka'ak Al Manara experience where you have all the bakery items, but the menu is much more extensive. It's now going to be a full-fledged Lebanese restaurant. So that's what we're working on now. Yeah. But my heart and my kind of focus over the next 5 to 10 years is we want to become one of the leading Lebanese F&B operators in the market and bring that thoughtfulness, that focus on wonder to all the different segments of Lebanese offerings. So whether that's snack, quick, Lebanese snack food, Lebanese fish, and there's so much. And that's where I am right now. You don't know what another sleepless night with kind of inspired thoughts will take me, but that's kind of where I see myself for the next 5 years.
I think Lebanese cuisine has been one of the, just from a culinary ambassador position, it's opened us up to the world. So many people know about our culture through Lebanese cuisine. And so I'm curious, what are your regional and global plans? How are you looking at the next steps?
It's a tough question. I mean, first, just to answer the point about Lebanese cuisine globally, I think that's, we're, as Lebanese, that's one of our blessings, is the richness of the Lebanese cuisine. How it's managed to, don't get me wrong, Middle Eastern cuisine we have cousins in every country we all have similar food, but for one reason or another, Lebanese food has marketed itself really well and gone global and topped all the Forbes lists and all of these top 50 foods of the world. So that gives me, as a Lebanese entrepreneur in F&B, that gives me endless possibilities of where to go. The tracks are already there, and I think if we are able to bring the same flair, the same passion, the same meaningful work to global expansion, then I think the world is our oyster. But for me personally, this is something I debate with my partners often is, how quickly do we want to go regional? Do we want to go regional? And definitely Ka'ak Al Manara is ready to go regional. We have a lot of inquiries for franchising and strategic investments or partners in the region. I'm sure we will pull the trigger at some point. We're just waiting for the right partner, and I'm sure we will get there, because Ka'ak Al Manara is really a unique experience. This bakery, restaurant, patisserie, retail boutique experience all kind of molded into one. It doesn't exist, and it's done really well in Dubai, and I think it will do well in the Gulf and internationally. But where I'm leaning now is going deeper into Lebanese offerings across segments and continuing to penetrate the Dubai market, because this is home, this is where my family is. I think if I can still develop the same value, the same passionate, meaningful work, and as well as generating, financial returns for my partners, it doesn't matter where or how. What matters to me is the balance, and Dubai is home between here and Lebanon. And for now, with Manaret Beirut, Ka'ak Al Manara, still there's many areas in Dubai we haven't expanded to, so we will get there eventually. And Manaret Beirut is still new, and these other concepts I had mentioned, in the Lebanese sandwich and fast food. So I think you'll see a lot more from us as a group in Dubai, and maybe some opportunistic investments with regional partners soon.
Cool. So what advice can you give to other aspiring food entrepreneurs?
So I think you have to, it's a very spiritual journey, at least for me, if you're anything like me. I mean, I know a lot of people who are in the F&B business who are successful and not very spiritual people. So I can just give you advice from my lens. If you're anyone like me, then ultimately it's about making kind of a decision with conviction. It's like, you need to decide to succeed before you can succeed. And so that needs to be a conscious decision. Say, I'm going to succeed no matter what. I'm going to, break my back. I'm going to turn the world over, and I will not yield until I succeed. And I think that mentality, it's almost like what kind of ultimate sports athlete needs to bring. You need to bring that mentality, because you're going to get slammed, and you got to get back up, and you got to have the faith, and you've got to have the belief. And when you're in the red and you're making losses, and it's COVID, or even before COVID, or just getting a restaurant up on its feet in the beginning is really challenging, and you're looking and everything looks bleak. Without faith, without that vision, without that conviction, it's very lonely. So you have to have some form of faith, and how you build that is through resources. Delve yourself into as many self-development books, audio books. Delve yourself into industry-specific resources. Get a business coach if you can. Get a mentor if you can. And because really, the only people who will understand the struggle is people who've been through it. And so if you're struggling and somebody who hasn't been through it is giving you advice, you're not going to take it to heart. But someone who's been through it you'll listen to more intently. And another thing is just a lot more technical. What I would say is the restaurant business needs scale. To create a good brand, you need good professionals. You need a good marketing background, or someone who has good visual IQ to create a sexy brand. You need a good culinary expert. You need a chef, whether that's you or somebody else. You need an accountant. You need the IT support, and you need an operations team. Now, definitely as a startup, as an entrepreneur like me, I started in the ripe market. I was spinning all the wheels with my feet, with my hands, and you can start like that, but eventually you need to get into the big leagues, and you need the experts. Yeah. You know, that package that arrives to your house needs to be professionally put together. Yeah. The experience when you walk through the doors needs to be a professional. Like a guest, within 1 second, his subconscious can tell whether this is a legit experience or it's kind of a helter-skelter kind of thing. Yeah. They'll give you grace if you're a startup in the ripe market, but they're not going to give you a grace if you're walking through restaurant doors. And so, since you need scale, I would say first you need finance, and I can help you. I mean, I do a lot of coaching, okay, and you need finance. You need to raise money. But more importantly, you need to understand the unit economics of restaurants. And the first restaurant you open is always going to be the hardest, because that restaurant needs to feed the profitability, it needs to feed the costs, the cost center, which is the chef. Your salary is the founder, the marketing, the accounting, the IT. And if you don't have this knowledge, you open your first outlet and you're barely profitable, you're like, oh, I'm suffocating. And no, I urge you, push forward, open a second, open a third. And when you open your second and you open your third, you start looking, oh wow, okay, now it all makes sense. Mm-hmm. Scale is critical, because each outlet's profitability will feed these central costs. When you open a second outlet, you don't need 2 executive chefs. You don't need 2 Ziyads. You don't need 2 marketing guys. You don't need 2 accountants. So all of these costs stay fixed, but your scale is getting bigger. And so when we open the second and now the third, everything's become a lot more, a lot healthier. Yeah. So I would say that's one technical piece of advice, and the other is spiritual. You just need to be conviction and don't see anything but success in your mind.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ziyad.
Pleasure.
Do we have time for a couple questions? Yeah, okay. That's what I wanted to open it up if there's 1 or 2 questions in the audience for Ziyad.
Hi, great conversation.
Thank you.
So especially Lebanese cuisine, because naturally everyone is in love with it, which makes us very proud. But it's quite a saturated market in terms of the product itself, in cell quality and everything else. So my question is, if you are interested in entering a market that is quite saturated, where a lot of people are going to tell you, this is so overdone, why are you doing this? I mean, how creative can you get with a manouche, as an example? Just in terms of mindset, how do you approach that kind of challenge?
I'm going to flip this. Have you been to our Wasl branch?
No.
No, okay. So I encourage you to visit. And for me, and again, I always say, I'd never like to give advice or anything without saying, if you're anything like me, okay? Because everybody's wired differently. But for me, that's why I kind of was never passionate or stayed away from the delivery business. So there was a time when we were opening and people were moving very much into cloud kitchens, dark kitchens, deliveries. And somehow there was pressure to kind of consider that route. And I stayed rooted in our mission. And this is why I said the mission is so important, is delivering wonder. And so I don't look at our business as Lebanese food. I look at it as, how can we deliver wonder? How can we deliver thoughtfulness in an innovative way? And when you walk through our doors, you feel it. You feel that sense. You feel that care. You feel that passion. And so for me, the space in F&B is just as important as the food. And that's why we take our time, our sweet time, to pick the right location. And it's not just about the location, as in visibility, accessibility, parking, and all that. It's the actual space. needs to, as soon as you walk into it, you need to feel something. And so for the villa on Al Wasl Road, we took a 40-year-old villa, and that's unheard of in Dubai. I didn't know there were 40-year-old villas. It's like as old almost as the country. We found a 40-year-old villa and we converted it, and it already had natural arcs, and it had a garden, and it was like a bungalow-style villa. So with the space, with being really thoughtful about the interior experience, about the story you tell through your interior, about the story you tell through your brand, yes, Lebanese food is saturated, but through being really thoughtful about the brand and experience, we differentiated ourselves. And also, I think we picked a USP, which is kaak, that didn't exist. So that was easier for Ka'ak Al Manara. Now with Manaret Beirut, we are stepping into a more saturated space. The brands are still connected. They're sister brands, Manaret Beirut, Ka'ak Al Manara. So, the bakery by Ka'ak Al Manara will still be there. The USP of Ka'ak will still be there. But even if I didn't have it, I think today, I can tell you for Lebanese food, I think there is a lot of Lebanese food, but I still see a gap I still see room for really high quality, premium casual dining. I see a gap where there's still room for a unique experience, a thoughtful experience. So what I do is when I create brands, I make them multifaceted. So now you're going to see with Manaret Beirut, you walk in, and I was inspired by the days in Lebanon, where there's a brand called Goodies, which is kind of, you go in and it's got all sorts of gifting. And so in Manaret Beirut, you're going to find us in Ka'ak Al Manara. We do biscuits, cookies, pastries as kind of food retail. In Manaret Beirut, we're doing more. We're doing dried fruits, chocolate, chocolate covered nuts. You walk in and there's an experience in every corner. We have a retail boutique downstairs selling merchandise and home accessories. So it's about creating meaningful oohs and ahs as you walk through the space. So this is how you differentiate yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you're just competing on the food, you're right, it's super saturated. But where we focus is creating, meaning for our guests when they interact with our brand online, through our outlets, through our catering, and we also have wholesale. We do wholesale. We earn more than 200 points of sale through our frozen products. And we even have the story on the back of the bag. So I think as long as you do things with conviction, with passion, with meaning, and with a bit of a sense of wonder, the market will react.
Well, into you ooze passion with everything that you say.
I know.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Again, one of the most beautiful things about your brand is the community that you've created around it. And last year, you were, I think, one of the first brands that were very responsive when it came to what's happening in our region. So my question to you is, as you think about expanding now, do you have an opinion or feel like it's going to be more of a struggle to support social causes, because that's kind of what tends to happen the larger the brand gets. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's something. Something we do to our very core is one of kind of our core values is giving back wherever we can to the community. Has given us everything. We wouldn't be here without everyone's support. And just 2 days ago, we had an amazing event. We teamed up with Maison Teeny, and we did Teenypreneurs, where we got kids, parents were allowed to rent tables at Ka'ak Al Manara, and all the proceeds are being donated to Lebanon and Gaza. And kids would sell their products. They'd make homemade products, and their sales, they're allowed to contribute whatever they wanted. And just in one day, we raised like 15,000 dirhams. And this is kind of what brings our community together. What people love about Ka'ak Al Manara is, for me, things that are no-brainers. I know we're in a region where we have so many causes that we can be easily giving back to and supporting, and it's a no-brainer for us to do that. And how I see it going as we grow, it's really, I can only tell you when I get there, but my full intention is to keep playing that role. I don't see how or why it should kind of stall our growth as we go forward. I mean, that's my intention. Let's see where it goes.
Thank you.
All right, we got one more question.
One more, okay.
So this is more of a finance question.
Yes.
But having a finance background, I feel helped you or guided you, helps you grow the business, and because you understand all of these finance stuff that, for example, I don't know.
Yeah.
What's your advice to someone who knows nothing about finance who wants to start a business?
Well, I knew a lot about finance, but I didn't know much about marketing. I didn't know much about sales. I didn't know much about food. I can't cook that well. Like, I had to surround myself with people that know how to do all of these things. And to be honest, it took me a while, because I'm a perfectionist. So for the first 2 years, I was trying to do everything. I was trying to perfect the kaak with my own skills. I was trying to write sales scripts for how to call offices to let me come and sample my products at their place. I was doing a lot on my own, and yes, there's going to be times when you're going to have to figure stuff out, at least at a rudimentary level, and that's why I said you need to immerse yourself in the literature. Pick up books about restaurants, pick up books about finance, okay? At least in the early stages. But definitely my advice for somebody who doesn't have a background in finance is one of the first things you should do is engage or outsource your accounting to an accounting company. And you can get an accounting company that's professional to do your accounts for less than 3,000 dirhams a month. Understanding the literature or the kind of the important aspects of finance into how to raise funds and how to get investors in. People do it all the time without knowing finance. They just hire a consultant that can help them. And, a year in, 2 years, by 5 years in, you'll start knowing what you need to know. And as I mentioned, once you make a decision with conviction, you'll figure everything else out, and there's no turning back. So did I answer your question, kind of? So you need to, in the beginning, you need to try to do it yourself a bit, and then eventually, whatever money you've raised, put some of that towards a consultant.
Yeah. Ziyad, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to have this conversation. Before everyone leaves, there are amazing snacks from Ka'ak Al Manara that have been provided, so please help yourself. Also, for those of you that have not been, or even if you have, Ziyad has provided 100 dirham vouchers for the Al Wasl branch of Ka'ak Al Manara, so please help yourself. They're back there, and we'll see you at Ka'ak Al Manara, Al Wasl Road.
Yes,
Okay?
please help yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.